Welcome to Coffee with Ken, a podcast devoted to the music of Oklahoma and those who create it. Your host, Ken Childers, is a lifelong music lover, former radio guy, and current newspaper editor. In each episode, we'll take a look, as well as a listen, to the singers, songwriters, and performers who have Oklahoma roots. So grab your mug, sit back, and enjoy this episode of Coffee with Ken.
My guest today is musical royalty. His grandmother's song about a hotel launched Elvis Presley's career, and his dad's songwriting propelled Three Dog Night to stardom in the 70s. And to top it off, his mom is a world-class piano player. And with a family tree like that, it's no wonder that he's a great songwriter and artist himself. We're talking about Mae Axton, is the son of Hoyt Axton and the grandson of Mae Boren Axton. Both are from Oklahoma. Like I said, with a family tree like that, was it just destiny that you were to be a musician, you think?
I don't know. Yes, there's some sprinkling of destiny, and it's also just like the support system around that. You know, when I was always told to like reach for the artistic stars and keep pushing. And for me, being a musician is an easy way to keep my grandmother and dad alive, keep their memory and their art and music alive. So that's an easy thing for me to connect with them. And my mom, like you mentioned in the intro, is a world-class musician and music educator. So she gave me a true love for sort of the power and the amazing things that music can do in the long run and in the short run too.
Now, did your dad try to sway you one way or the other?
I mean, a little bit, but originally I was supposed to go be an athlete and a football player. I was going to go out to University of Oklahoma. I went out there and did the whole walkthrough and did all that stuff, and then decided to stay in California for a girlfriend at the time in college. And then the rest is history. I ended up destroying my knee anyway. You know, the one scare that everybody has when you go into like professional football or higher ranks of sports. I ended up doing that anyway. And that's when I picked up a guitar because I was laid up for about 3 months after knee surgery. And I was like, all right, let me like sort of take this music thing a little more serious. And I have not put it down ever since. So 20 years.
Okay. And man, you are a touring machine. I mean, you're going all the time. How many shows do you play a year, do you think?
Well, it's growing exponentially, and that's what we want, right? So I've only been doing the full-time touring about the last 3 years since sort of COVID opened up. And I moved to LA about 5 years ago to sort of meet other musicians that wanted to do the old-fashioned grind that we're talking about, you know, the thing that my dad did and that whole generation of, you know, the greatest entertainers in history did, which was meeting people and you know, earning the stories so you can write the music. I really believe in that. But so this year, I think we had almost 200 days on the year or on the road, which is a lot for a small independent outfit like us. Like I said, we do everything in-house. And even though I come from a lot of legacy, I don't have any of the legacy support financially, that kind of way. So like I said, we're doing it the old-fashioned way. And I'm proud to say that it's growing and glad we can meet people like you along the way.
What was it like growing up as a showbiz kid?
Well, it was pretty magical. You know, when you're a kid, you don't realize that you're in the middle of the situation that you're in. I thought every kid got to go hop on a tour bus and travel all over the world every day, you know, wake up in a new place and be surrounded by, you know, artistic characters all the time. My dad was one of those few musicians and entertainers who really stayed down to earth and stayed connected to his fans. And that's why he still has, even 25 years after his passing, he still has really dedicated fan base of people because he always treated them you know, with a lot of respect, no matter if it was a president or a pauper, he treated them all the same way. And that's something I try to do as well. So growing up in that atmosphere, you know, I couldn't help but absorb as much of that as I can. And I'm very lucky, like I mentioned, in the legacy world, most legacy kids have one parent who's normal, you know, who stays and keeps the house and everything normal, and one artistic parent. And I had two artistic parents. So when it was time to hit the road, it was a family affair and there was no escaping it. So it was one of the most amazing ways to grow up, and obviously set me up for really respecting and longing for this sort of musical connection lifestyle.
What about seeing your dad on the big screen? What kind of thrill was that?
Oh yeah, well, so that's a double-edged sword because as amazing as it is, in a lot of his movies, because he was such a big lovable, like he played the sheriff or the father figure, they like to kill him off a lot. So as a young kid, that was pretty traumatic, to be honest. I remember a lot, crying many times, like, "What? They just killed Dad! Oh no!" And the mom's
Oh,
like,
gee.
"Hey, it's just a movie. He'll be back." So I mean, obviously, I learned how to process that much later on in life, but it is amazing for me to be able to turn on the TV or turn on the radio and still see my dad. That's sort of a magical thing. We watch Gremlins every year at Christmas just so we can get our fix there. And the name of our tour bus or our van is Cassoulet, which is the name of the horse in Black Stallion, which my dad was in. So like we try to weave all those things in there somewhere.
Now, I remember when I was a young boy, I'm the youngest of four kids. And my oldest sister, there's almost 11 years difference between the two of us. So when I was a real young boy, I'm talking about 1971 or 72, she brought home a record and put it on what we called the hi-fi. And emanated from that thing was a song called Joy to the World. And I remember jumping around, dancing like a crazy man to that song. And that was, I guess, probably one of his biggest hits that he wrote.
Absolutely. That was the A number one. That was the biggest one.
And just like the song title says, it was kind of a nonsensical song, but it brought a lot of joy to the world. It really did. And
Absolutely.
still does.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I understand that song was initially written for a children's television show, and that Three Dog Night wasn't really interested in it when they first heard it. Is that about right? Or
Well, so there's some conflicting stories about this. The story that was passed on to me and sort of our family story, and the one that my dad would tell us, is that um, basically my dad at the time, I think he was either with Capitol or A&M Records. This was 1970, right? And he was doing a recording session down here in LA, and they had ran out of material. They still had a half an hour left in the studio time. And my dad's like, "All right, we're done for the night." And his bass player at the time, a guy named Arnie Moore, legendary LA bass player, was like, "Hey, what about that song, that little rhythm we were messing with the other day in practice, was just as dun dun dun, very simple, very simple." And my dad's like, "Well, it's not a real song. Like, we don't have words." And Arnie's like, "Just make something up. Like, just put some filler words in right now, and then we'll go back and change it later, just so we have the template." My dad's like, "Fine." Sat there, I think, took a sip of some wine, sat there. Jeremiah's a bullfrog. It went straight from his head to the paper, right? There was no no deep
oh
thought
well,
process. And that's why it is just sort of like he's just talking about life, having fun, all the joyous things in his head at the moment. And before he could change the lyrics, he was shooting pool with all the guys in Three Dog Night. My dad had a house at the mouth of Laurel Canyon in the 60s and 70s, which was the coolest place in the universe at the time.
right.
And his house was like one of the party houses. So anytime you saw more than two cars in the driveway, you'd stop by and hang out, right? So it was a rotating cast of who's who in the industry. And my dad had a big pool table, so everyone would stop and play. And Three Dog Night was there just hanging out at my dad's house. And my dad had Joy to the World on in the background, just on a little reel to reel, just listening to it. And they're like, "What is that song?" And he's like, "No, no, it's not a real song." Like they're like, "Well, we need a B-side. Let us just like record it real quick and like, and nothing will happen, but we need a B-side." He's like, "Fine, do it, whatever." And before he could change the lyrics or they could even take another breath, it became the number one song in the world for 6 weeks there and became his biggest hit. So
Oh man. Then they recorded another one of his, Never Been to Spain.
absolutely, yes, the Okie anthem, one of the Okie anthems. But
Yeah.
that I mean, that became the same. At that point, my dad was known, had a good standing and just in the songwriter community, and people would go to him. They're like, "Hey, Joseph, what you got? Send us something." And because of Joy to the World's success, they would go to him. Three Dog Night, was good friends and kept picking from that tree, which Never Been to Spain became another great tune.
Well, tell us some other songs that people may not be aware of that he wrote that other artists covered and had success with, and they may not know that your dad wrote.
Absolutely. This is one of my most favorite parts about playing a show is telling all these legacy stories and seeing the light bulbs pop on in people's brains in the audience, or their heads explode from all this Axton history knowledge. So the very first tune that my dad penned that was a hit was a song called Greenback Dollar, which was a hit for the folk supergroup called Kingston Trio back in the early
Yes.
80s. And a lot of people don't realize that was him. That was his first one, and he was living up in
Okay.
San Francisco at the time. And there was a huge folk coffee house circuit up there. Once that song got a little traction, that's when my dad moved to LA. And that's when all that fun stuff in the late 60s, early 70s was happening. But Greenback Dollar was the first hit. And then you got Joy to the World is a number one, right? Number one hit. Then there's a song there was a big hit for a band called Steppenwolf back in the late 60s called The Pusher, which was a
Yes.
huge song for them, a psychedelic rock song that was part of the theme of Easy Rider, the movie in there. And so that was number two, and then Never Been to Spain's number three. And then Ringo Starr had a number one hit with one of my dad's songs called the No No Song back in the 70s.
Okay.
Those are the top four Hoyt written songs, but he also had about a dozen of his own songs touch the charts in some sort of way, like Bony Fingers and Dell and the Dealer and things like that. So, like I said, he had his own success. He just wanted to make a good song. He didn't care who sang it. He just wanted to pay respect to that process of writing a good song.
And he had I was a disc jockey in the early 80s out in Wewoka, Oklahoma, not far from here. And I used to play a song of his. It was a duet with Linda Ronstadt.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't recall the title right now. Help me out with that.
When the Morning Comes, maybe, or could
Yes.
Yes, that was another really big one of my dad's. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was that just on country, or did that cross over to other charts?
It did a little crossover. My dad, I love to tell the story or the timeline of his career because it's very different than most artists. Most artists grind and find their niche and just sort of live in that, forever as long as they can. My dad was one of the few artists that not only had a successful career in many different mediums of entertainment, songwriting, performing, movies, TV, commercials, voiceovers. He sort of did all of that in some sort of, separately but together. But he also hopped genres. Like I said, the first hits were in folk. His biggest hits were all rock and roll anthems, and then his later on in the career was all country songs. So he sort of always sort of ebbed and flowed with what he wanted to do and what he was feeling at the time. So all of his stuff never really sat perfectly in a box, and I think that's the most beautiful thing. Everything is, originally Hoyt. He always throws a couple quirky chords or has his, his vocal things that he does, and so his music sort of hopped around fan bases as well. So like When the Morning Comes, they said it probably got most play on the country stations, even though it wasn't a traditional country song. It just sort of, told that story, a little love, a little loss. And, it just sort of, that's where it sat, but it sort of went all over the place,
He had some great songs. Now, I've always known that Hoyt and David Boren were cousins, but I didn't know till recently, read it on your website, that your dad and Arlo Guthrie were cousins. Have you kept that connection up?
So that is the one family connection that we have kept alive since my dad passed. So the Guthries were big fans and friends of all of them. And we actually just played this summer. We played Woody Guthrie Festival in Okemah. We were
Right.
acts, and then we went out to Great Barrington, Massachusetts, where the Guthrie Center is, and where Arlo lives and the family. And we played their series out there. So we connect with them as much as possible. And as far as being cousins, we tried to ask Arlo when we were out there like last month if this was true. And so it turns out they're not blood related, but they are
Okay.
cousins by marriage, though. Like somewhere
I see.
like three cousins back, they got married. So they always told everybody they were cousins their whole lives, and they were musical brothers, and they acted like it. So we consider them family, and we love them.
Got a story I want to relate to you about your dad real quick. As I said, I was a disc jockey in the early 80s, and we had to sell advertising to support our show. So one day I'm calling on this First Federal Savings and Loan in Wewoka. And there were two banks there. He had one in Wewoka and one in Holdenville. And one day I was trying to sell him some airtime, and he said, Ken, he said, I'll buy airtime, but no offense, I just want another voice on my radio spots. He said, besides yours. He said, no offense to you, I'm just looking for something different. So he dug through his Rolodex, and while I'm sitting there, he called your dad. Evidently, they were good friends from, I guess your dad would hang around Holdenville a little bit in his early days. And they were friends, and he called him and said, hey, Hoyt, Fred Smith here. I'd like to talk to you about doing some radio ads for me. And sure enough, they got it done just over the phone, just like that.
Well, that's the Okie connection right there. One call away.
Yeah, one call away, just in his Rolodex. I know you're doing your own thing. You're a songwriter as well. But you, when you tour, what's the set list like? Do you integrate your own stuff and keep some of your dad's stuff in there, or how do you do it?
Absolutely. Well, we like I mentioned earlier, we're doing it the old-fashioned way and the hard way. So we adjust our show or our set to every show. So let's say, for example, on this tour, we'll go from doing a seated theater show to like a festival, and then like a late night honky tonk, and then like a dive bar, all in the same like 4-day period. So you got to treat them all a little differently, right? For me, when it's a seated show, we tell a lot more legacy stories, dive into the why and the how, and like sort of connect all those dots. Where sometimes if you're just playing, a late night fun bar gig, or people just want to dance, so we don't lean to as many stories, and but we always tap into some Hoyt. We try to end every show with Joy to the World, most of the time, because you can't really beat that for a closer in any day and age. And for the really special shows where people are listening, we dive into my grandma's catalog, and obviously the Heartbreak Hotel connection and all that fun stuff. And like I said, we sort of mix it up every time. I have the Axton curse. I have over 300 songs of my own, so if I got to squeeze those in somewhere. It's very important. Very important. But like I said, in the end, it's a challenge, and it's a really fun one for us to sort of always make each show its own special little thing for the audience.
Okay. Well, tell us about your own stuff. I've listened to a little bit of it. Some of it's kind of bluesy.
Yeah.
Bluesy leaning and kind of roots rock. Is that kind of what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Yep. So, I grew up very similar to my dad as far as progression. I grew up just me and a guitar doing a lot of solo sort of folk stuff. And then always had sort of separate bands. We'd have one more acoustic side band for more folk songwriting leading shows. And I'd always have like a big rock band. And so we'd always get to, throw those songs into the appropriate group there. And now I moved to LA, like I said, 5 years ago, to meet musicians that wanted to go tour and do this, and which is absolutely crazy thing. Everyone go get a real job. Don't do this right now. But in the end, somebody, it's up to musicians again to carry these torches and try and make the world worth listening to. But for me, I approached music and songwriting the same way as my dad. I just wanted to make a good song. I just wanted to serve it, no matter what genre it was going to be in. I wanted to do the best I could for that song. There's really no ego connected to it. And so I've written songs, like my dad, in every genre I could think of, from reggae to hard rock to blues to folk to bluegrass to like everything we can. And so my dad was an Okie, my mom was from New York, and I'm a California mountain kid. So there's going to be a little bit of all those influences in there. And we call our particular brand of music mountain soul rock and roll.
Mountain soul rock and roll.
That's our stamp. But like I said, at the same time, we'll flip, and I have a bluegrass band that we'll use for stuff. And we always just sort of keep mixing it up. But in the end, I just want to make good music. And what the term now is Americana. That
right.
is the term, which it encompasses, like I said, like little blues, country, rock and roll, some soul, some bluegrass, all live under that sort of umbrella. And we've really sort of ran with that, and it's doing good for us.
Well, do you have a guitar handy?
I have guitars around here. I do.
Why don't you grab one and play a song for us?
Oh, play.
Okay.
To record an album out there. So now it's sort of the lull time. We just got back from the biggest tour of our lives, going across the whole East Coast, and now we get to sit and prepare for big recording to do out there in Tulsa. So Oklahoma, we like you a lot. We love you. Thanks for being nice to us. We love everybody, but Okies have been extra nice. Okay, hold on. All right, we'll do this one. This is going to be a brand new tune we just threw in our set on, and it became a little mini hit without ever being heard by anybody in the world besides the audience in front of us.
Okay.
Slip Away With Me, a little like boom chicka country tune.
Okay.
As the days go by, you keep wondering why nothing comes back to you, when the only thing you should ever fear is not to do. Take a break from that hectic pace that you call your life. Taste a bit of that somethingness, make that something taste nice. Then won't you slip away with me? I'll show you the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, open your eyes, baby, you'll see how you can slip away with me. Slip away with me. Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? When you close your eyes, you realize how easy this can be, as the perfectness surrounds you. Do with it as you please. Take a piece as it comes in reach. Remember how it feels if you touch something new every day. Your dreams are more than real. Then won't you slip away with me? I'll show you the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, open your eyes, baby, you'll see how you can slip away with me. Slip away with me. Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Tell me what is real. Is it what you feel? Or is it what you see? Well, I'll help you find what your dreams may hide. Those dreams seem real enough to me. Then won't you slip away with me? I'll show you the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, open your eyes, baby, you'll see how you can slip away with me. Slip away with me. Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Won't you slip away with me? Won't you slip away with me? Uh-huh. Yeah. Won't you slip away with me? Cha.
All right. That was nice.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that.
All right. It says on the
Now,
new album.
how do you distribute your music? Is it over streaming, or do you sell physical product at your shows?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, nowadays, in order to survive at all in this industry, you have to, dip your toes in everything. Yeah. So yeah, we do. We live on the streaming world. We also sell everything in person as well, and on the website, maeaxton.com. We have everything on there and have fun little like sort of history of the Axton legacy. And we're always adding stuff. So if anybody has good stories out there, like the one you gave me, we'll always take them and try to put them in there and archive them because, like I said earlier, I don't. Sadly, my dad did not take care of the end of his life stuff very well, and I've never seen a penny of his money, but I still got his blood, and I could still love his music, and that's what we do, try to keep that alive.
Well, man, that's awesome. So tell us what's coming up. You mentioned you're going to be out here in February. Are you going to play anywhere publicly while you're out here?
Absolutely. So we're coming out there for a few weeks in February, basically the 9th to the end of the month there, and we're going to record. Like I said, do the old-fashioned thing where we're just gonna like lock ourselves in a spot for a few weeks and try and make the best music we can with no distractions or very little distractions. Got to live with some. And so while we're out there, we're gonna be playing at the Colony, which is an awesome venue in Tulsa, legendary venue. We're gonna do a Monday residency there just so we can, workshop our tunes and say hi to our friends. And then we have gigs on all those weekends out in Oklahoma as well, and we'll tour back. So. This has been the busiest year of our lives, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Keep growing this thing, and like I said, it's independent and small, but it's growing, and we need all the help and friendship we can get along the way. Thank you for doing what you do, shining spotlights on musicians and creatives, because it's needed more than ever in history, and support for us is like I said, much needed and much appreciated. So,
You're very welcome. So. Tell us one more time where to find your stuff, that website address.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, if you are a West Coast person out here, maeaxton.com is the easiest way. And then Matt Music on all the platforms. You can find us on, on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media stuff, all of the streaming platforms, Matt Axton Music. And then I run a monthly Americana series out here in Los Angeles, a free music series where we showcase all original music from the City of Angels and beyond. We always do one touring act and two local acts to support it because I think community is king, and that's the only way we're really going to grow as an industry is by supporting each other. I really try to walk the walk on that stuff. And then I run a music festival up in Lake Tahoe, my home, a benefit music festival. It's free as well, and all the money goes to local music and environmental nonprofits.
Oh, wow.
So trying to do good, trying to spread joy. That is the main ingredient that we try to do here. And thank you for giving me a platform to try and, grow some.
Well, you bet. I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance. And I've been keeping up with you for a little while on Facebook. I'm glad we finally connected and you could be on the podcast. You've been a busy guy, and I know you've got a busy schedule ahead. So all the best to you as you embark on these things, and keep in touch with us.
Absolutely. And if you ever need any music out near you, please poke us and we'll do the heavy lifting. We'll come out there and figure out where to play, but we'd love to play for as many people anywhere in the world. We'll do it. We're easy that way.
Okay. Mae Axton, everybody. Hi, this is Ken Childers, host of Coffee with Ken. What a pleasure that was visiting with Mae Axton. Thank you, Matt, for visiting with us. Enjoyed hearing all the great stories about your dad. Hey, all you who follow and listen to us, we sure appreciate it, but we need more of you. So share the word about us. Go to our YouTube channel, Coffee with Ken. That's with a K, Koffee with Ken. And subscribe to the channel, like it, share it. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, the same name, Coffee with Ken. Like those pages and share them. You'll be doing us a great favor. Help get the word out about the show.